Hello and welcome to the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association's Reasonable Doubt. My name is Murray Newman. I'm the president of the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, and I am your host tonight. I am very happy to announce that my co-host tonight is my friend and the vice president, or as my children call him, why is that man flipping you off in the middle of Me Tierra, my friend Damon Parrish.
The V stands for vice president.
Vice president?
V.
I didn't know what, I thought that was Klingon.
No. That's racist. It's vice president.
Oh, okay. Well, right before the show started, we were trying to figure out who was the bigger nerd in high school.
It's definitely you.
I mean, I would assume so, but I think you have some true confessions to make about the math club.
I mean, I was in math club. UIL math, UIL, not debate. I did debate my freshman year. Math, academic decathlon, not that one, where you go to, I was in the team where you go to events and you get trivia.
Is it Odyssey of the Mind? That's.
I was in high school in '94, in '96 to 2000. It's like almost 30 years ago.
You graduated high school in 2000.
I know you were already a professional lawyer at that time, but
I was. I was a lawyer in 2000. So, you know.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I was academic decathlon, so that's my nerd claim to fame. But you know, it was good. Like who saw we were going to become lawyers?
Yeah, not me though. You know, I want to be a lawyer. I mean, an engineer. I actually applied for A&M. Yeah. Then I got into HBU. Bad decision.
Why? Why is that a bad decision?
HBU was great, and so I wanted to be an engineer or be a doctor. So I went to HBU to be a doctor, and I became a lawyer.
What, did you just get like lost at the job fair? Or?
So HBU was smart. They put all the pre-med classes at 8 in the morning, and I'm a lazy person. So I slept till 9. I said, all right, that's not going to work. So I chose computer science.
I do see you coming into the parking lot at my same time.
At 9 o'clock.
Yeah. You got to get that beauty sleep.
8:45, 9.
Okay. And I think joining us by Zoom, we have our friend and the treasurer of HCCLA, Justin Harris.
The money man.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we
no?
can. There you go.
Now you can hear me. Awesome.
There's the man.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for letting me come back on. I'm sorry I'm not there in the studio. It was really fun being back in there next week. I'd like to come back some more.
Hey, Justin, I like your tie.
Thanks.
Yes,
nice tie. It's the emperor's tie.
It's a nice tie.
Hey, Justin, are you able to see if there are any comments on our broadcast? Can you handle that part for us, or I think I can do it. It's just distracting to do it in the in studio.
I do not, where I am, have the HCCLA Facebook blog.
What in the world?
I am really like.
You're not here. You can't. Okay, fine. I'll do everything.
I'm barely phoning it in.
Okay.
I don't even think I can get credit for phoning it in.
Who made this guy the treasurer?
I know. I don't know. And you get no IMDb credit for tonight.
No, that's fine. I didn't earn it yet.
Well, we got a lot going on in the Harris County criminal justice world these days. A lot going on at the jail, a lot going on in politics. And in a very weird moment, I walked out of the jail yesterday and there was actually a live monkey running around. So, I mean,
I saw that on Facebook,
and
I didn't know if that was actually real, like a joke.
It was real.
I'm not.
I can't see the monkey.
Where did the monkey come from, and why are you letting it touch it? Did you not see Outbreak?
So and I thought about that. But the selfie was more important to me. But so Carrie Hart, John Stevenson, and I, we are working on a capital murder set for trial on Monday. So we had gone over to talk to our client about some last minute things. Obviously, a very serious meeting.
Yes.
And we walk out, and I'm like, that appears to be a monkey on a leash over there. And I was very enthused. They could have cared less. I said, let's go get our pictures taken with the monkey. They said no, but they did agree to wait for me while I did that. But
terrible.
And it was just this lady that she had a monkey on a leash, and it was jumping all over the place. And so
really, have you not seen Outbreak?
Yeah, no, it was a bad idea.
That's like the literal plot of Outbreak.
But now we have photographs.
But that monkey wasn't on a leash.
It was.
So this is like a domesticated monkey that apparently liked being on a leash.
Yeah, and then and I don't know that it liked it. In retrospect, it may have been a very sad situation.
So we just got out of COVID. We can't go back. No more lockdowns.
Patient zero right here.
That's terrible.
Right.
Terrible.
So
that's why I'm not in the studio. I just didn't want to freak out Mark and Damon. But
so,
thank you.
But We were coming out of the jail where we actually had a fairly smooth process. We had reserved a booth, a room to talk to our client, because there's 3 of us on this case, and so we had talked to him, and that had actually gone well, but that has not been the norm lately at the jail.
No.
You have done an amazing job as vice president in helping kind of lead our efforts in trying to get a multitude of problems fixed at the jail. So let's talk about some of those.
Let's do it.
Why don't we start with how the problem started?
So it originally started when a couple of bad seeds, and probably 1 or 2, decided that it was a good idea to do something they should not do in the jail, right? 1 attorney, maybe 2, brought in some drugs. 1 DO, probably more, brought in some drugs.
By DO.
I'm sorry,
What's
a DO,
a DO?
is a detention officer. So
Okay. A guard.
A guard. But in every county within Texas, it's that county sheriff's office that is in charge of the inmate population at their county jail. But those guards aren't always sheriff's officers. They're not always deputies. They are detention officers, some of which, and they only work in the jail. We call them DOs. And so the DO also brought in drugs. But as you can imagine, it was the defense attorney and the press behind it that brought the most scrutiny to jail access and inmate access than the detention officer and what they did. And because of that, we've had to suffer a litany and slew of lockdown procedures that really don't make sense and are counterproductive.
They don't make any sense whatsoever.
They don't. They're just punitive. And it's counterproductive into a good, meaningful attorney-client relationship, and it has caused a lot of problems.
Yeah. And I think a large part of it was we also didn't have any notice that this problem was coming. Now, in fairness, because I do like Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, and I do feel that historically, since he's been sheriff, that he has tried to work with the defense bar to be as accommodating as possible while maintaining the safety of the jail, which is no small task. But all of a sudden, the way it comes to light, at least on my end, is people saying, hey, they've sealed up what we call the Habern slots. And the Habern slots at the jail are the slit in the plexiglass, or the glass between us and the inmates on the other side of the booth, that have historically we've been able to pass our paperwork.
Right.
And unfortunately, what the drugs that were being smuggled were fentanyl that was sprayed on sheets of paper. And the attorney, there's been one attorney, Ron Lewis, who's been arrested for it. He was delivering fentanyl-laced paper, which you could easily slide through the Habern slots. And so the way this comes to our attention is that they're saying, hey, the Habern slots, which are named after the late Bill Habern, because he filed a lawsuit that got them put into jails, and so we started saying to the jail, what's going on? We need these slots, and that's when we were kind of made aware of a bigger problem, and unfortunately, when we met with them to try to resolve that problem, instead of them getting fixed, the problem grew. So why don't you tell us a little more about that?
Absolutely. And I will start by doing a few things, saying this as an overall kind of theme. I don't believe it's fair to make a rule for the masses when 99.99% of the population is fine. And so one person messes it up, makes a mistake, and now everybody suffers behind it. I don't think that's fair. That's what we're dealing with here. And so to describe further in how we have our jail visits, when we meet with our clients, there is a probably 1 inch, maybe 2 inch, I don't know, thick plexiglass window. It is soundproof. We're in a cement box with metal cage around us. And so it's not good for sound. So even if you're not actually passing papers to your client, frequently you would stand up and yell through this little, 1 centimeter inch space to talk to your client. Right, and we've done it for years. Done it for years without even having an issue. Never complained to the jail like, hey, I can't hear my client. Never asked for little holes drilled into the cement so we can talk better. Just kind of did it. It was just par for the course, and it wasn't a problem. And then we have this one issue develop, and I think it's important to note that the sheriff's office was actually investigating Ron Lewis for a long period of time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they caught him one day randomly with a bunch of fentanyl in like a big fentanyl can, spraying paper and sliding it through. He was under investigation for a long time. And during that period of investigation, he's the only person that we know of as a defense attorney that was passing documents through. So even though they are aware that an attorney was doing it, they were also aware that every other attorney was not. And while we are not doing it, we are affecting good attorney-client visits, which is good for the sheriff's office. So we are here and we're doing these visits, and now they've imposed these, it's almost like ad hoc draconian measures. Like every time somebody thinks something new, let's do this. The Habern slots are blocked off now, so we can't pass our documents to our clients. We can't hear them.
Right. So yeah, and to back up real quick, if you watch TV and then the TV lawyer goes to visit the TV client, they pick up the phone.
Right.
And those phones are there, but they never work. And historically those phones have never really worked. And for, I don't know about you, but even before they sealed up the Habern slots, which are less than a centimeter, because you can't even pass a pin through as narrow as those were. You can pass a couple of sheets of paper, maybe 3 or 4 at a time.
Maybe.
But even when those Habern slots were open, that was the primary method of communication.
It was the only method.
Because the phones rarely worked.
Correct.
And so what I was going to say is, spoiler alert, the phones still don't work, and now they've sealed up the hole.
Right.
And yeah.
I gotta jump in.
Jump in.
You guys are right, but you're also wrong.
All right.
In some big ways. So let's break this down.
Oh, sure, Mr. I can't come in or monitor comments, but
I'll monitor this. Let's really talk about this. There are 4 jails in Harris County, right?
Yeah.
701 JPC, which is across the street, Big Baker, 1200 Baker, where Ed Gonzalez's office is, and then Little Baker across the street, 1307 Baker. 1307 Baker is like a low security jail. That's the best way I could describe it. I can walk in there and just like show my ID, and then they say, go sit in that room right there, and I can talk to my client, take my bag, take my I'm not gonna say whatever else I can take. I can take anything in. I don't even have to go through a metal detector to go see somebody at Little Baker. 1200 Baker, where the sheriff's office is, they have in the attorney booths, they have actually, it's a plexiglass thing, and they took back after they built the building, they took a circular saw and just put a 1/8-inch wide cut at the bottom of the plexiglass at 1200 Baker in Ed Gonzalez's office. Right? We're all on the same page still?
Yeah, I mean, so far I think I'm more right. I haven't heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard where we were wrong about
I'm waiting.
anything.
1200 Baker.
Okay.
1200 Baker has not sealed up any of those Habern slots with a circular sole.
No, I don't.
I've been through all those floors and checked. Those are not sealed. 1307's not sealed either. The JPC, the new building that they built, so the JPC actually has built-in slots that are metal, and there's like a 12-inch divider. That slot is 12 inches wide, and if you're going to slide a piece of paper in, you have to get the whole paper through so they can pull it through the other side. Maybe not 12 inches, 8 or so inches, but those actually have a built-in. They have a built-in like 1/4-inch plate of steel that they can hinge up that has a slot for a lock to go through and a bolt to go. They haven't locked those up at all. At 701, where they had the little slots where you could fit about 4 sheets of paper in that were built in, they have blocked those at 701. But last week, I've been in the other 3 jails. I can still pass papers at 1307. I can still pass papers at JPC, and I can still pass papers at 1200 Baker. It's just been 701 where it's the problem. And then at JPC, they've made me go through a metal detector. And the lady at the metal detector is like, you know why we're making you do this now, right? And I was like, no, I have no clue. Why? She's like, well, because some of y'all are bringing stuff in you're not supposed to. And I was like guns and knives and metal things? She's like, no, like drugs on paper. And I was like, oh, are you going to search all the paper in my briefcase? Let me answer that for you. No, you're not. And then I just picked up my briefcase and I went up to the 3rd floor, and she didn't say one word to me. And when I came back down, I was like, do you see how like silly this whole thing is? I took all my paper up there and you didn't look at any of it. I passed your metal detector and your security. You had no problem with that, but you're not looking for metal.
So
this whole thing is completely a sham. I don't know what they're doing. I'll stop. Sorry.
well, no, I mean, my memory is different. I have recently gone 701 is seven. We would agree that 701 and 1200 Baker are the two main jails as far as just sheer quantity of inmates that are there. You know, I do almost exclusively felonies, and almost all of my clients. I can't remember any time in recent memory where I've gone somewhere other than 1200 Baker or 701.
I agree.
San Jacinto. My memory, it could be wrong, I'm getting up there in years, is that these issues also persisted at Baker. But I'll defer to you on that one, Justin. But they definitely
1200
are
Baker
there.
last week, I was flipping papers through. Because here's what I do. We write on our pages, there's no fentanyl on this paper, and I give it to my clients. And we want to see what they're doing. And we've had and I'm now saying, and I'm spilling the beans
terrible.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
But we've been
YouTube,
having
sir.
conversations.
This isn't YouTube.
Yeah.
It's going to be on YouTube.
Wow.
And I don't think the sheriff's people are watching this live. I'd like for them to, but they can watch this later on. But like I'm seeing what they're listening to and what they're not. And it's interesting when you start having a conversation with your client in a room with a Securus booth about certain things, then all of a sudden my clients get moved.
So I think that there is a agreement amongst other issues with the jail is that there's no consistency.
None.
And there's no logic or reason or rhyme to what's going on.
That's where we're all agreement.
Their idea to prevent fentanyl from coming into the jail, which is a laudable and important idea,
Sure.
but in any type of situation, your cure cannot be worse than the illness. Right? And what we have here is where the cure are these measures that keep changing. And there's no notice. You just show up in jail one day and all of a sudden you can't do this. I don't mind going through a metal detector. I've always gone through one. I've never skipped it.
I've never taken anything into a facility that you're not allowed to take, whether they know it's there or not. Whether I can get something past them or not is not the issue. I do not want to break the rule and have that privilege taken away from me, because it doesn't, at the end of the day, let's all make this clear. The issue is the Sixth Amendment right of access to the defendant has to their attorney. And this is impeding that. It's not a matter of like our convenience and things like that. It's not about me. It's about my clients and their ability to get access to me. Well, the bigger problem, I think.
Well, I was going to say, I want to jump back for just a second, Justin, because I kind of want to talk about the origin of this problem. Like the origin of how we become aware of this is when we start having members saying, hey, these slots are closed. And so we reach out saying, hey, there must be some misunderstanding, because in all honesty, and maybe it was just really naive of us, or of me, you know, I'm from Bryan College Station, but to think like this must just be some mistake and they don't realize how important this is to us. And so we start talking by email and say, you know, we needed those slots, you need to reopen them. And they're like, oh no, we did that because we needed to stop the flow of paperwork. And I thought, well, that's stupid. What are you going to do with the mail we send our clients that we have stamped as attorney-client? And they're like, oh no, we're intercepting that as well. I'm like, what do you mean you're intercepting it as well? Like we had received zero notice that letters that we were sending to our clients were being opened by the jail illegally, and then copied. And then, because they wanted to make sure that they ran the fentanyl-laced one, the potentially fentanyl-laced ones that us attorneys must have been sending, and then giving them a clean fentanyl-free sheet, which then begged the question: what are you doing with the originals? With all of this stuff that we just sent our client, marked it attorney-client privilege strictly so you wouldn't read it? You were like, the sheriff's office is basically going, see that little stamp that says attorney-client privilege? That's hilarious. And then they're opening it. Mm-hmm. And no warning to us. I mean, if even at a minimum, they could have said, due to emergency situations, please be aware of this occurring. And they didn't do that. They just started opening our mail, and we have to rely in good faith on the people that didn't bother looping us in on the plan, that they're not keeping a copy, providing a copy to a prosecutor, or or doing whatever they wanted to with it.
Right,
And
right.
so that that literally doubled our problem from the Habern slots to the whole way they're processing mail. And then you and Joe Venus, our incoming president, we go and have a meeting with them, and they start telling us, oh yeah, no, this is just pretty much how we've got to do things.
Right. And let's not forget, another issue that was kind of tagged onto there was during the hot summer of 120 degrees in Texas and Houston, Harris County, we had these weird dress code issues where they wouldn't let women go in there with dresses on, or if they saw your shoulder, you couldn't wear that. Their policies are punitive, and once again, I can't stress this enough. If 99.99% of your population is doing the right thing, you don't need to make a new law. You don't need to create a law for that literal one person. And that one person has created a cascade of effect of an issue that is slowed down Sixth Amendment rights and has made an interference of an attorney-client relationship, while at the same time, the jail, which is overcrowded, and is begging for attorneys to come see them, begging for more attorney-client visits, literally asking us every day, please come talk to your clients. Please come down more often and see them. Please help us with them, then also creates these artificial roadblocks to do so.
I think you're being too kind. They weren't inviting us to come down. They were complaining to the judges that we weren't doing it. So they're basically,
and the news.
Yeah, they're basically,
and the news media.
The jail, who's got all kinds of different problems going on with it, has the audacity to turn around and say, hey, the reason that there's unrest at the jail is you attorneys aren't coming to visit enough. And it's like, okay, but when we go, we can't even hear our clients.
Can't hear them, can't talk to them. Well, you may not get let in for your dress code. And this is the same jail which has had a record number of deaths, right, attributed to who knows what, and looking for a way to kind of deflect away from us. It's not us, it must be them. It's not us, it must be them. And so we've tried to meet with the jail at multiple times to try to see, hey, listen, here's our issue. Here's a resolution we would like, and we're not asking for something new or different. Just go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good system, by the way, but we worked through it. We understood it.
At least hear them.
We could hear them. We talked to them, and we didn't complain. And it's kind of weird just to ask for a system where we're not going to complain.
Well, and the thing that absolutely astounds me, I mean, we could talk about the lack of consistency at the different units,
right.
But let's talk about the lack of consistency over time. We all were lawyers during the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey when the courthouse gets wiped out, and we're literally having dockets at the jail.
At the jail.
And we are going in there as attorneys. They're not even putting us through metal detectors as we are going into the jail. And we are walking in to rooms with 30, 40 inmates charged with everything from possession of marijuana to capital murder. And we are walking in with unchecked briefcases. No one has patted us down. We could literally have handed them a can of beer and nobody was paying attention to it. And I mean, there is no telling what system that we did that we could have done or taken advantage of that. I didn't hear of one single allegation of abuse that an attorney did. We had several of our membership get decked and punched by our clients. Not me, but
Not me.
Judge Danny Lacayo did.
I wasn't gonna name any names, but he did. It's hilarious.
For some reason, there's just something punchable about Judge Lacayo, apparently. I don't know. But
at the time, he wasn't a judge. He was my friend and colleague, but it was hilarious.
But I mean, we walked into super dangerous situations. You had females walking into a room that could have potentially been filled with people charged with aggravated sexual assault. And nobody blinked at that. I mean,
not a single eyelash was batted.
And all of a sudden, we have one attorney passes a couple of sheets of fentanyl, and we shut the whole thing down.
And
has it been determined? Has Ron entered a plea of guilt on that?
No, allegedly.
Okay, because we can't forget that. I don't know the statistic. I was going to look it up, but I won't. But last I heard, it's like 87% of contraband in correctional facilities is brought in by the officers.
Listen,
And
that's not even a
so,
secret. Like I think everybody knows. Like you might have this, but the absolute illegal flow of contraband is not from anybody but detention officers, parole officers, probation officers, prison guards. I mean, I think we all know that. What we have not seen is the equivalent policies for the DOs, and we won't see that, right? What we see is a very public showing of distrust from a group of people that have very publicly been not your adversary. We've not been the sheriff's adversary. We've not hated on them. We've not stopped them. We've worked with them in their jail through some really not
tough
good
times.
working conditions, right? And every time they needed us to be there, we stepped up. And then one person out of, and I would dare say 1,000 defense attorneys walked through Harris County.
At least.
1,000.
Yeah.
We're talking about one person does something they should not do, and we all must suffer, and that's just not fair.
Well, and it also
Well, it's not just
violate-
us that suffers; it's the clients.
Correct.
There's another issue with this is the new policy that's coming down from the top, and they're being hard on this. Is if you are not the listed attorney of record in their computer system, you cannot go see the inmate, and because that's apparently what the allegation of against Mr. Lewis involved is that he was visiting people who were not his clients, and that's kind of what raised some of their suspicions. I don't know all the details, but
I literally
and
I literally got a call on Monday that had happened. Paul Morgan called me, said I'm trying to go in right
I've been
now.
calling.
Yeah.
I've been calling you, Murray, or Joe, somebody like a couple months ago. I was contacted by the family of a guy who had an attorney who was appointed in the jail. He's like, the family attorney's never called us. He's never gone to see the client. We want to hire you to do this. He's like, well, look, I need to go talk to the client, see what's going on, see if he wants me. I can't just take your word and take your money and then just go sub in on this guy when I've never met him. So I go over like I've done for 12 years to see this guy, to see if we have a conversation, do a consultation with him, advise him, counsel him on the law, and then tell him what I think I can do for him and how much it would cost. And ended up, they wouldn't let me see him. And I had to call general counsel for the sheriff's office. I talked to her. She said, who are you talking to? And I said, Lieutenant, I won't say names, Lieutenant so-and-so is standing right here in front of me. She said, oh, so-and-so, let me talk to him. I was like, here, general counsel wants to talk to you. And they spoke. She said, okay. And she said, I'm taking you up this one time.
Yeah.
And that was the first of 3 times that she took me up, because every time I had to call general counsel, talk to Lieutenant so-and-so, and she would clear me to go up. But that is, and I told general counsel, I was like, this is a 6th Amendment violation. This man has a right to effective counsel. He does not have effective counsel right now, and his family and he are seeking new counsel, and you're denying him that. Straight up, you are standing here saying, no, you cannot go talk to a person who may want to hire you to represent him.
Right.
That's a big problem for defendants.
Well,
And now they've shifted over to the Securus stuff. Have y'all tried to have a Securus meeting with a client on a video in a while?
Well, we haven't even gotten to that element of the problems, because
Right.
one of the things that we started off by saying is that this is a problem that's not getting any better, but every time we turn around, there's a new addition to it, and we're going to come back to Securus in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
But the other issue is that now another thing is that you have attorneys that are showing up in person to see their clients who sometimes they cannot even hear. I've literally been told by a guard, you're just going to need to scream through as loud as you can and hope that they can hear you. And so anyway, here's our secret strategy, like that,
Right.
like that's effective. But the other thing is that there's plenty of times that you show up and you go to the floor, you give them the little yellow sheet of paper and say, this is my client, I want to talk to them, and they don't bring them.
Nope.
They're like, oh yeah,
Yep.
he didn't want to meet with you. Like, there's no way that he did not want to meet with me.
Right.
He literally yells at me for not coming enough, and here I am, and you're saying he doesn't want to come in. And even when they do bring them, sometimes you'll sit there on this floor and wait for 30, 45 minutes. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I started getting complaints about 2 weeks ago where attorneys were going up, so people understand, when you go to the jail floor to visit, there are typically 4 attorney booths that are designated for us to talk to our clients, but then there will be rows of where family members meet with them. They don't have the same type of privileges of being able to slide them any things for obvious reasons, but they have these rows, and they're on the phone, which I guess those work.
And they're recorded.
And they're recorded,
Please
right.
understand those calls and those, even the in-person visits, those phones are recorded. Cannot stress that enough.
And so, but I've been getting complaints from membership because as president, everyone complains to me. And we had people that showed up and they had family members in the attorney booths. And when they said, but those aren't attorneys and I need to meet with my client, and they said, well, the floor's on lockdown and so this is how we're doing it. You're just going to have to wait.
Yeah.
And I don't know who came up with that idea, because you don't have a Sixth Amendment right to visit your mom or your girlfriend or anyone else. And attorneys are notorious for having huge egos and everything like that, but that's one of those ones where you do want to go like, but I'm a lawyer, and play
Right.
that card, because your communication with your client is more important than what they've got going on, and it just is. And I've gotten calls from people that waited for literally 3 hours before they just said, to hell with it, I'm leaving. Because and what people don't realize is if you're appointed, you're billing for that time.
The county pays me for every minute when I walk in that threshold. And if Ed Gonzalez is looking at this, you know what I think he should do is, what is that show where you like Undercover Boss? He needs to go do Undercover Boss, like he's a lawyer going to visit a client, and see how we get treated by those guards at those booths. I'll tell you, it's the second and the third floor at 701 San Jacinto. They are great. Those guards, I got a couple clients in both those, in some tanks on that floor, and I've been going to 2 and 3 on 701. They're good. When I go 4, 5, 6, 7, or when I go anywhere at the JPC, those guys in the JPC, they have this sweet little room, and there's a doorbell you have to push. They don't come out. Yeah. I have to go back down to the second floor and say, there's no one up there to bring my client out.
Yeah. Well,
and yes, when you're appointed, the county's paying me for all that time that they're playing those games. That's what it is. Because when my clients come out, Damon's told this story on the show before, but the clients come out like a week later. You're like, hey, why didn't you want to come out last week? Like, what are you talking about? I was here last week for like 45 minutes, an hour, and they told me you didn't want to come out. Well, they didn't come talk to me and tell me you were here. And these are clients I see every week. You're not going to convince me they don't want to come out. They are eager to come out and see me because nobody else visits them. They don't have family. It's just me.
So the other thing is, just so people who've never been up there, is when you go up to that floor, there's a control booth, and it's got tinted glass. You can kind of see through it if you look up. And you will see there's usually 2 people in the control booth. And half the time you go up there, and they just ignore you. Like, you will be standing there, and there's a sign that says, do not knock on glass.
Don't tap on the glass.
Like, don't bug me. I'm busy ignoring you. And you're like, okay. But I mean, I think that taxpayers are typically not real sympathetic to defendants or their attorneys. But if they knew how much they were paying us to just stand there and bill them while we're waiting to just have a conversation with our clients, they'd probably start getting a little mad about that.
Well, and if you're doing fair reporting as the Houston Chronicle, when you list those top 10 paid attorneys by the county, they're all taking clients who are vastly locked up. And if you sat down and did some real investigative work, Houston Chronicle, and figured out how much time average you spend waiting for your client to be brought out and all that at those jail meetings, and then you extrapolate that on how much some of those attorneys who made $750,000 to $1.1 million, you're talking $50,000 to $60,000 probably in time waiting for those clients to come out. So sorry, I can't see y'all as well. I keep getting messages, stop talking over other people. I don't mean to be rude. I can't. This isn't as easy on Zoom. Sorry.
I didn't send that message this time, Justin, just so you know.
Who sent that message?
Not just Murray.
I guess to bring it all together for the jail, one of the things that I want to make sure is clear is that jail visits have never been easy for us, and they've never been fun for us. But we've endured it and gone through it without complaints. We've done it for our clients and for their benefit. And now we are seeing unnecessary impediments to that, which can be alleviated, which are not fair.
Right.
And for a system to be just, it has to be as fair as it is tough.
Yeah.
Right? And we're seeing unnecessary measures put in place to impede the fairness, which makes it not just. And all you want to do, and I don't think it's unfair to ask, is to hear your clients when you're talking to them. And it's not an unfair ask. We're not asking for anything unreasonable, just to hear our clients and have them the ability to sign the motions that we need for them to sign and get our paperwork. To just that small sense of fairness, which isn't much, but it's being deprived.
Well, and and to add another element to this, and I do want to talk about Securus, and in fairness,
Please.
Sheriff Gonzalez, we are meeting with him tomorrow. We have a meeting scheduled with him at 11 a.m. I tend to have a belief that a lot of the complaints we've been making to his administrators are not being conveyed to him.
I agree with that.
Because I've, as have you, we've attended multiple meetings, and I can honestly say I don't think that anybody is doing anything other than giving us lip service and saying that they take our concerns very seriously while doing nothing about it. And the reality is that at some point, if these things don't change, we are obligated to file a lawsuit, and we will. And I'm very hopeful that this meeting with Sheriff Gonzalez tomorrow will alleviate the need to do that. But if it doesn't, it doesn't.
It is what it is.
But I do think historically he's been good to us, and we've appreciated him for that. But at this point, we have a constitutional duty to fight harder to see our clients, and we will. Talking about the problems that we do have at the jail, there are elements of communication. Some attorneys do this, some don't. I collect phone calls from my clients. They take advantage of that. I hear from the vast majority of my clients at least once a week. Several of them call me a lot. But they have a system because the county has a contract with a group called Securus. And to put it mildly, Securus does not have the best reputation within the criminal justice world, although they do seem to have a monopoly, certainly in Texas, in being the communications company that institutional facilities use for inmates to be able to talk to not just family, but also attorneys. And to put it mildly, their system of video visits that they have in place at 701 San Jacinto is a joke.
It's terrible.
Because number one, they have to be called to a room. You have to book it in advance. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, guys, but you book it at least a day in advance.
Yep.
You schedule a time, and then you go log on to your Securus. The times that I've done it, the audio is virtually non-existent. You might as well be shouting through that solid glass pane. But the bigger issue is that you have attorneys, and you only get like a 20-minute slot of time, and the client's not being brought to the Securus room where they can have a video conference. They're not being brought at all. And we're getting the same thing, they didn't want to come out, which is just, that's like saying they just didn't want to take their lottery winnings. There's no way that's true. And what's happening is you've got no checks and balances. No one is sitting there saying, why didn't you bring that inmate here for the 3:20 appointment? I want you to write down a report. You're going to be in trouble because you didn't facilitate that like you were supposed to. And we don't have that.
We don't. And so part of that is when you're doing an in-person visit, you're more likely as an attorney or even a person, if I'm in person, to say, hey, I've been waiting for 20 minutes, bring my guy out. If you don't, let me talk to your lieutenant or something like that. And so it escalated, they do that. On Securus, it just ends. And I have found, and I think this is anecdotal, I don't keep track of these records for myself, but I never use Securus because it never worked. Like if I had a visit, I was surprised. I would schedule them, especially during COVID when all we had was Securus and Zoom. I would schedule them, and Securus never worked. The Zoom did, the Securus did not. And I think that's one of those times, as to mention this, but we don't have to talk about it a lot, follow the money on Securus.
Yeah.
Follow the money. And then you would see why Securus is prevalent and in use, but not working. Follow the money.
And we just had kind of a question pop up with why not use Zoom, and it would seem that that Zoom would be the answer to this. And the fact of the matter is that over at 1200 Baker, you have Lieutenant Tanya Greenwood,
Right.
who is
amazing.
Who's thinking outside the box, and she started using Zoom, and lo and behold, amazingly, it worked. and this is how counterproductive our meetings with the sheriff's office regarding the jail have been, that when we brought up, as an example, to some of the administrators at 701 San Jacinto, Zoom is working really well at Baker, why don't y'all use it at 701? They were like, what do you mean they're using Zoom at Baker? Who let them use Zoom?
Yeah.
That sounds entirely too effective. We've got a contract with Securus, and you all should be using that. That not only did they absolutely disregard the idea of it as a solution, they seemed rather irritated that somebody else at a different facility was using it. And I cannot emphasize how much time we spent in this meeting to only get a brush off. We literally got a sarcastic response from a captain over there who said, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you are not getting the customer service that you feel entitled to." And it's like, this isn't about customer service, this is about the Sixth Amendment. And they could not have taken us less seriously. And we said, let's schedule a meeting in a month. That was a month and a half ago. We haven't heard nothing.
Well, okay, so the Securus thing, look, the booths, okay, so from a taxpayer standpoint, you want to follow the money, that takes like hardware installed into the wall of the jail that they have to drill through a secure, fortified structure to run the wiring for that. We remember when they put those in, and now like half of them have been removed. And when I schedule Securus meetings every week, because there's a couple clients where I'm just like checking in, making sure they're okay. They don't need me to come over. Sometimes when I go over to see them, they get more annoyed. They like the quick Zoom video meetings. Just let me tell them like the court date got moved or something.
Is it because you're talking over them?
Well, so that's the thing. That's the thing. No, I do it from my office a lot. I prefer to go in person. But here's the thing with the Securus video things. When you use them, I don't know what technology they're using, because the audio will start to loop back on itself in your earpiece.
Yeah.
You can hear yourself looping back, and if you don't stop, it'll cascade and it becomes a feedback loop. And your client and you can't hear, and you have to stop.
And Justin, I don't want to get too far off into the technicalities on this. I'd rather kind of stick to the general principles.
Well, but let me explain. You're right. Here's the thing. The Zoom, everybody uses Zoom. We're using Zoom right now. Zoom doesn't have to cost anything. You only get 40 minutes on Zoom with the free accounts. And Tanya Greenwood, what she was setting up, I could show my clients their videos. I could show them the evidence by sharing my screen, and it was super smooth. When I go over in person, I have to download everything first and show it to them. They can't hear the audio when they're sitting in their thing and I'm playing their recordings for them. They can't hear anything. But when they're on Zoom and they're sitting in front of that iPad that Deputy Greenwood would set up for them, they can hear everything. They can see their evidence. Securus doesn't even have that function.
And that's if they bring them at all. And I mean, the thing is, when we go back to it, to kind of tack on to what Damon was saying earlier about the consistency, is that if it works for one, it could potentially work for all. Right. And contrary to what one of the captains was trying to say, it could. And and the other thing that I would add to this is that the judges have recently pointed out that they really are emphasizing to us that we need to be visiting our clients more and going to the jail and having these visits. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Wave at them through glass when we can't even talk to them?
Right.
And it is really at a critical crisis stage, in my opinion, just how bad it's gotten over there. So.
And I think it's really unfortunate that at 2024, we're just asking to visit clients, just communicate with them.
Yeah.
Something that has historically not been an issue, right? And then you have, and when you have the defense bar saying, hey, jail, you have created a policy and tool that works. You have created Zoom that works. This is your baby. This is what you did. You put this policy together, and we love it, and we love you for it, and thank you. And then for them to look at us and say, hey, I got you, but we want to use this over here, which everybody universally says is not working. Well, and it once again, there's no money in Zoom.
Right, because here's the new thing, is it the same captain who couldn't have been more dismissive of us is like, soon the inmates are going to be getting their own tablets provided by Securus.
Which was odd because even the defense bar was like, now what?
And they're like,
Yep.
oh,
Now
good.
what?
Now you can get the same level of ineffectiveness brought to you through our phones on a tablet.
Right.
And it's like, and think about how much money did the county just pony up to pay for these tablets that I have zero doubt will work about as well as their stupid phones do.
100%.
And we talk about all of this, and we haven't even started talking about the fact that they are shipping our clients off to every corner of the country where we can't even talk to them at all.
Right.
We can't prepare for trial with them. It's become just a walking constitutional violation.
Right. And it's one of those things where I think that the sheriff's office maybe is just not caring, or they're not receptive, or are diligently working against. I'm not for sure their mindset here, because we have, at least for a year now, said, hey, here are our issues. And we've come to them and saying, listen, we don't want to fight y'all. We don't need to. We've had a great relationship. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
All we want is this. And we're not asking for something that you cannot deliver. We're asking for something that you have delivered, and we just want you to keep doing it. Yeah. We're not asking for something extraordinary, right? I think for the longest time, what also has not been mentioned is, as we practice felony offenses, capital murders, you don't do it by yourself. So you have co-counsel, you have people you go to visit with, and you're sitting in some of these rooms with just one little concrete pillar with 2 or 3 attorneys. It's hot. You're trying to talk. You're having to yell. It's uncomfortable, and they have rooms that are bigger that we have historically used and have worked just fine. And there's never been an issue. So what we're asking for is not something that I don't think they can't deliver or will cost them money. It's just open the slots and let us visit our clients.
And the thing that's mind-numbing about it is, look at how many different solutions that they could have done.
Right.
Look at your typical buy-bust arrest. What do before they send a confidential informant to go in? They search them. And the second that person goes and makes an undercover buy, they search them again. Mm-hmm. If they are so concerned that one of us attorneys are giving them drugs, search the inmate before they put them into the booth. They've got the absolute right to do it. And then search them when they leave.
Easy.
And that could have been one solution instead of just wholesale blocking this. We do have a comment from Luke Newman saying Damon and Murray are like Batman and Robin. So I don't know.
Agreed.
I don't know who's
Clearly, I am Batman.
That's fine.
I mean, clearly, look at me.
I mean, I've recently been made aware of Robin's evolution into Nightwing, so it's not quite as sidekicky.
That's actually terrible that you don't know that there are multiple Robins, and there is a Nightwing, there's Dick Grayson, Jason Todd. That's terrible. You don't.
I'm a Marvel guy.
I was like, whoa, Damon, you're that into DC?
He was in were you here when he said he was in the math club? I mean,
yeah.
What lawyer in here, as an aside, wasn't into some athletic club? Math, science, English.
It's not an athletic club.
I mean, academic. I apologize. I also played sports too, so I was a jack
just
of all
said before we went on the air that you did not, but okay.
So I went to school.
Yeah, I heard that part too.
Yeah,
I went a terrible decision. I went to a school that didn't have any sports.
It did not. But I played extracurricular outside.
Luke says you're definitely Batman.
Thank you. Luke is the man.
Okay, so real quick, we're starting to run out of time because
right.
I mean, complaining about the jail goes. There's so much to try to put in there. Hopefully, we can report some good news after our meeting tomorrow. But we are about to have a monumental election coming on Tuesday, and we will absolutely have a post-election recap this time next week. A lot on the line.
Yeah, yes.
We are looking at an extremely unpopular incumbent district attorney who, if the polls are to be believed, is about to potentially lose her seat.
Yeah.
And we had Sean Tier on the show last week talking about a lot of his plans. DA Kim Ogg was invited. She did not attend. We also have some controversial judges on the ballot that have some very strong contenders. What are your predictions for next week?
So I have learned that you cannot predict politics, right? And polls are great, but you cannot predict. So I have no predictions. All I can say is I hope that everybody votes, and I hope that everybody votes in some way that is beyond, I'm going to say, politics, like educated. Ask a friend who knows. Do some research and vote, because I think there are some really good candidates out there who I would say probably should get the job. And I'm looking forward to Tuesday to see what happens. And I will just say this: I hope everybody votes and gets out there and spends a little bit of time, because these elections matter.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, personally speaking, I felt like local elections matter more to you on a day-to-day basis than national elections.
100%.
And so who you pick as your DA and as your judges and as your sheriff and as your constable or whatever, as your mayor, matter more to you than who you pick as your president. And I really think and I really hope everyone gets out and votes. And these primaries are important.
And I think you bring up a really good point, because I got to admit to being guilty of this in the past before I came down, is that if you don't know anything about the race, don't cast a vote.
Right, I agree with that.
Because I used to make sure I filled out every single one of those. Somebody was getting my vote. Maybe they were the first person on the thing. Maybe they just liked the name. And it wasn't until I became someone who was practicing in Harris County, who was dealing with these elected officials, that I realized what a disservice I was doing to the rest of the voting public.
Correct.
And there are so many people that are out there that can give you their opinions, and they may agree with me, they may not. If you don't want a defense attorney's perspective, call a prosecutor and ask them what they think. Mm-hmm. Ask them what they think of their boss. I think you might be surprised by the answer to that.
Or go down to the courthouse one day and just watch.
Okay, let's not
I
get
like
crazy.
telling my clients. I like telling my clients, hey, your judge is going to be up for re-election. Oh, hey, the DA's up for re-election.
Yeah.
Tell my clients to go vote too.
Well, and the thing is that I'll tell you this: when people ask me, when they actually ask me, what do you think about this election, and what do you think, I'm flattered. I am glad, and I am genuinely touched to be talking to someone that cares enough about the process to do some research, and more people should. I've made it a point. I've got a friend of mine who practices civil law. I don't know anything about the civil judges. Every year, every election cycle, I say, tell me about the candidates, and he does.
Correct.
And I follow his lead on that, because those votes, you have a duty to be educated to push the ball one way or another.
Right.
And there's not enough people that do that.
And I can say this: there have been times I have voted that was counter to my, let's say, fiscal policy interest, right? Because I think there's some people who, because they're good or bad at their job, will be better for my wallet.
Sure.
But there are other people I think would be better for the job, and I vote for the person that's better for the job.
Right.
In the end, I want safety.
Right.
I still live in this county, and so I make money here, but I also want to live here. I raised all 4 of my children here. My wife is here. My mom is here. My sister-in-law. My family's here.
Sure.
My sister is here. So I want to be safe here. So I don't always vote money. I think, like you, I ask my friends, and for the most part, those who practice will give an honest answer.
Sure.
They'll say, this person is fair.
Yeah.
Here are their policies. Vote against them or vote for them, but at least now you know.
Right.
And it's a lot better than just casting a vote for a party or for a name or for what you think somebody might be. Ask somebody who knows what this person actually is, and then cast a vote that way.
Well, and and the reality is that Harris County over the past several election cycles has been very much predominantly a Democratic county, which means that with the primaries coming up, that statistically, if things hold up, that when you are picking your Democratic candidate, odds are you are picking the person who's ultimately going to win. Obviously, that can all change, but given the climate and controversies at the head of the ticket across the nation, I think there's every reason to believe that it will be another good year for Democrats. And so this is the important one.
This is it.
It's kind of like when you have the AFC playoffs and the NFC playoffs, looking to see, one of them's the real Super Bowl.
It's always the AFC.
No, I'm an AFC guy. Grew up with the Oilers, so they will always have that.
Okay.
But the San Francisco made it interesting this year.
But they lost.
They did, but I really wanted the Ravens to have a better
They
showing
lost.
against
And the
Kansas
Eagles
City.
lost last year.
Yeah.
Also NFC.
But it was still a good game.
Something can be good and still be a loser.
Yeah.
AFC won.
It's like being a defense attorney.
It was a good game,
right?
and they won. I'm good at a winner.
Yeah. So next week is going to be really interesting. So we've got about 3 minutes. Here's the question that I'm dying to know.
All right.
And we won't know, is that in the event Kim Ogg loses, what is life at the district attorney's office in the courthouse going to be like for the next 9 months? Is she going to just be resigned to be on autopilot for the next 9 months, or is she going to break out the butcher knife and, take out all the enemies? Is it the last scene of The Godfather? What do we think it's going to be like?
So I, like you, have lived through now 8 different DAs, 4 different elected DAs. I will say that my guess is this, if she were to lose, will look different than every other DA that lost.
Yeah.
I think there will be a lot of relaxation amongst certain people who work at the DA's office. And I think that there might be some retribution amongst others. But ultimately, though, I think it'll go out with a fizzle. I think she'll go out with a fizzle.
And that's that's a best case scenario.
Yeah.
I was talking to some people. I was talking to a fellow defense attorney. Actually, he's a divorce attorney, and I said I actually think turnover is going to slow down.
100%.
Because right now you have, the turnover rate is just ridiculous at the district attorney's office. The attorney that you have on one setting is, the odds of them still being the attorney on the next one is, 50-50 at best. But I think that if there is a change in leadership, and we know come Wednesday morning that there's going to be a different DA, whoever it may be, I think you're going to see turnover come to a screeching halt. And I think that that's ultimately going to be good for everybody involved, because we're going to start having some consistency in the prosecutors that are handling the cases that we deal with.
I think to echo your point, there'll be a lot of calmness.
Yeah.
There won't be as much trepidation, a lot of fear. People will relax more, and what you will see, which for a citizen of Harris County is a much better and actually stronger DA's office. And that's what I was saying. I think that that's a wild thing to say from a defense attorney, that I want a stronger DA's office, and I want a stronger, not necessarily in power, but in ability, but I also live here.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think it's as bad as it is. Like, the crime rate's actually pretty low. Like, this actually is a really safe time of being in Harris County, having lived here for like over 20 years. But I do think if she were to lose, you would see a more stable and a more calm DA's office. And I agree with you, there will be a lot less turnover.
Because we talked about this a little bit last week with Sean Tier, is that what people don't realize is that the prosecutors who stay, they are a benefit to us because they know when a case is bad and needs to be dismissed.
Absolutely.
There are so many arguments that we have with young prosecutors who think that they know everything, and you're saying to them, this is not a good case, trust me on that. And we've got 30 seconds. Real quick final thoughts. Justin, quick final thoughts.
I don't have quick final thoughts.
Okay.
I'm interested to see how Tuesday's going to go. All my thoughts are very long.
Tuesday's going to be amazing. We're going to have an amazing wrap-up on Thursday. Damon, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Luke Newman, this is Robin
Damon.
signing off. Thanks for watching.
I'm Batman.
He's Batman. And thank you all for tuning in. And whatever you do, go vote.
Please vote. Votes.
Have a good night.
Vote.